So Brenda, if you could kind of give me an insight into you becoming a founder, let's take it back. We will go all the way back to when you first got the entrepreneurial spirit, when you was like, I don't know if you worked a job or, you were fresh out of college, or you knew when you were a kid, a child, and you were selling candy. How did this come about that you figured that you were going to own your own business?
When I was really little, I used to play a game, and the game was Business Women. And so my sister and I, she's a little bit younger than me, we would dress up in what we considered to be business women clothes, and we would pretend that we were business women. And I was a store owner. And so it was in my pretend imagination that this dream to own a business was hatched. And then every summer, my parents would let us have a garage sale, and we would sell the toys that we no longer used, and it just felt so invigorating to have some kind of a toy that maybe had done its part for me that I could watch someone else enjoy, and they would pay me for it. We also held lemonade stands as kids, and even when I became a teacher, I was still always embodying this entrepreneurial spirit where I would pick up gigs, side gigs as a piano accompanist or a choir director. And so it's just in my blood. I'm the only one in my family that I know of that is a business owner, but it has been with me my whole life.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And with you saying that, I have to ask the question, what generation are you a part of?
I'm part of Gen X.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's the most awesomest generation.
That's right.
So you're lucky. My listeners are lucky because that is, my demographic. That's who I speak to and who I speak towards. And I know that Generation X was raised in a certain way.
That's right.
And we have certain work ethics, we have certain things that we believe in. And now in this new day and age, I tell people a lot of the time that we're like living in a whole different world. you
Yes.
know so so for us to go from the way that kind of we were brought up, even though we were, I think, um a few of us were entrepreneurial minded, like that did come with the territory in that generation.
Mhm.
However, it's a different type of way of handling business then than it is now. It's a
Mm.
different way that you have to put yourself out there, present yourself as it is now, meaning technology, meaning kind of really putting your life out on, in on Front Street. Um, so how was that transition to you? You started with an average everyday career and job, correct?
Mhm. That's right. I was a teacher.
Okay, okay. So you was a teacher, and then that just kind of morphed into the coaching program or the coaching business.
Well, I became a teacher clear back in the dark ages of 1996, and I was a music educator. And so that was my career that I went to college for. And I was raised in a family that taught me you go get educated and then you do the thing that you went to college for. And so I stuck with that for many, many years. But somewhere along the line, and it was pretty early in my teaching career, I realized that I wanted to also add in some entrepreneurial kinds of things. And so I was a very new teacher and I was already looking for side jobs just because I enjoyed that feeling of connection. I enjoyed that feeling of being a part of a community. And so it wasn't until probably 2005 when I really went into a business of my own. And that was not, well, not everybody considers this a business, but I became a Mary Kay beauty consultant in 2005. And I did that for a couple years when I was taking a break from teaching, and then went back into teaching in 2007 when my marriage ended. And then somewhere along the line, I decided that I wanted to be a photographer. And so I opened up a photography studio that I held in my home, and that would have been in around 2010. And so I was, gathering business acumen and figuring things out. And what I realized as my photography business went on, the part I loved the most was the conversations I was having. And so I had this idea that I wanted to work more intimately with people and have conversations. And so that seed was planted in around 2010. And then in 2015, when I discovered Reiki, that was when I transitioned. I transitioned my entire email list and I just said, "Hey, I'm not going to be a photographer anymore. Now I'm going to be a Reiki master." And I just took them along with me for the ride. And so the iteration of the business that I now own really started in 2015.
That's I like that story because it's the essence of entrepreneurship. Like, it's really just the little bird jumping out of the nest, learning how to fly.
Yes.
And the first thing may not be the thing, you know. It's
Mhm.
just it's something, but it may not be the thing that that's really going to catapult you um to greatness or to a bigger business or whatever. But it is about making that first step, um, like you did with the photography. And that's kind of funny. It's hey, I'm taking you along with me, not with photography, but on this
That's
new
right.
journey. Yeah.
That's right. I'm assuming you like me, so come with me.
Right, right, right. I'm your person. I'm
Yeah.
your person. So yeah, I think that's awesome. So that was you found a new thing, and I'm pretty sure it pulled you, and
Mhm.
tugged you. And so how did that startup go? What was that like, getting into that and filling that out?
So at the time, I was still teaching full time. And so I started my business working nights and weekends. And it wasn't like I worked every night or every weekend, but that's how I started to fill it. And as it grew and I got additional trainings, I realized that it was so much easier for me to do things online than it was to do in person. At the time, I had rented a studio space and I was holding in person Reiki sessions and card readings and theta healing meditations. And I realized I could do this online with a lot more ease. So I took that business online in 2017. And so that still was very much nights and weekends. And I loved it, but it was still part time. And then in 2022, I realized all I'm thinking about is my business. All I want to do is my business. All I want to talk to about to anybody was my business. And so I stopped teaching in 2022 and went full time. And that's when things really took off because it really was a passion project, maybe an obsession where it was just all I wanted to do. And so even now, work doesn't feel like work, even though it is absolutely work because I'm just so passionate about it. It's what I'm interested in. I like feeling like I can make a difference. I love the feeling of watching a client grow and evolve and transform right before my eyes, where they start to smile bigger and they're more relaxed and their relationships improve. And to me, the payoff for that is fuel for my mission.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. That's an excellent payoff.
Yeah,
Um, just to see other people go from doubt to, you're that transition, you're that bridge, and then you can see it in their face that they have the aha moment.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And that, so my business was originally, well, my actual business name is Brenda Winkle Empowerment, but my brand is Your Yes Filled Life because it's that feeling of yes. When something goes really right, that's the yes filled life. And so my passion is guiding people to their own yes filled lives.
Yes, yes, yes. Got it. I got it wholeheartedly. And I will say, I don't, there's such translation. There's such a transformation from, although it was a horrible time. It was a bad time during that COVID era, during those years. And I talk about that a lot on this podcast because I've seen so many people transform themselves, transform their business, transform from something that they were doing to they got a little break in the matrix and ended up doing something that they supposed to be doing,
Mhm.
that they love to do. And it was during that time, 2020, that people have started businesses and coaching programs and started helping others. And the years are always the same. Like when somebody come on this show, the years, that time span is always the same. Like I
Uh-huh.
found myself. I found what I wanted to do. I'm doing it and I love it. And it's mostly helping others do what they love.
That's right. Something happened to all of us as a collective in the pandemic where we realized life is short and we realized that the institutions which we had thought, especially Gen Xers, like we grew up thinking there would always be school in this way. There would always be these institutions that would keep us safe. And it shook us to our core. And there was just a massive collective trauma as we not only navigate the fear around COVID, but also the crumbling of the systems that we had always thought were absolute. And then we started to realize, oh gosh, they're not absolute. What does that mean? And for me, and for a lot of people that I work with, it opened up this giant question mark of what's possible if
Right.
if we could do anything we wanted because these systems that we thought were so solid in place aren't as solid. What could we do? What could we create?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And and so many people start getting creative. And it's now, what can I offer? What can I offer the world? What can I offer the universe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. Is I like I said, I talk to a lot of the people um that I do interview, and it's so refreshing to watch. It reminds me of the the barter era, the hunting era, where you was worth your worth, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and I think what you have to bring to people, and when you say when you can see them with their yes, finally, get their yes, that's so fulfilling. That's a fulfilled life.
Yes, it is. And I do think we are wired as humans to want to be of service. We want to contribute. And whether that means that you're serving coffee in the coffee shop, or you're coaching somebody, or you're hosting a podcast, or you're a teacher, or you're serving in a restaurant, that contribution, if we could view it for I'm contributing something meaningful, really matters. And I love thinking about there's no right way to contribute as long as it feels good to you, it feels joyful to you, I think that there's value in it. And also, not everyone has a luxury of finding their contribution monetized. Not everybody is able to do their work for money, if that makes sense. Like sometimes the heart-led contribution starts as a volunteer work or maybe even a side hustle. And there's love and space for that too.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, 100% agree. So, Brenda, let's go into the business. Let's get into the business. You are, I know you mentioned visionary professionals, but I'll ask you this just in case someone that's listening want to know your ideal clientele, who you speak with, your avatar. Who would that be?
I work with people typically 40 and older. I seem to just really attract those kinds of people, mostly because I'm in my 50s, I think. And I work with people who have big visions, lots of intuition. They're probably ambitious. They might be very empathic, have deep empathy, deep compassion. And a lot of my clients also have ADHD and intuition and compassion and empathy. And so when I'm talking about visionary professionals, I'm talking about those people with big ideas, big things in their heart, and maybe for whatever reason haven't really acted on those yet, but they want to. And they're ready to do something, even if they're not quite sure what it is. They feel change is coming and they want a little support to create that change in their life. And that's where I come in. So I work with people in one on one containers, like just a one on one coaching experience. And then I work with people in a group, which has my brand name, Your Yes Filled Life. And inside my group, we really, I work very intentionally to create a power structure that is power neutral, meaning I don't have power over anyone. No one has power over me. And we have shared power within the group. It's really unique. And I'm very sensitive to that because I created what I most wanted. As a high achiever, I'm prone to chasing the gold star and to wanting to please the teacher. And I tend to attract a lot of people like that too. And I want them to live their own yes filled lives, not do something to make me happy, which is why I'm so sensitive to the power structure. Now, at the same time, I'm a strong leader. And so I'll guide you through a process that will help you determine what it is you really want and why you really want it. That's the super important part. And then we break it down into bite sized steps. Most of the visionaries that I work with have huge ideas like, I want to write a book, or I want to start a movement, or I want to host a podcast, or I want to start a Facebook group for immigrants. And so they have these big things on their to do list. And what I help them do is to break that into little tiny baby parts that they can feel successful and they actually will implement those steps to create the changes that they want.
Geez. Okay. Okay. That's perfect. That's perfect. Brenda, I have to ask, how did you, I guess I'm speaking on mindset at this moment. How did you go from being a teacher to having the courage to encourage others to dream big? Because without having, a lot of the time we have the little voice that comes in our head. We have what is it called? There's a word for it, and it won't come to me right now. Imposter syndrome.
Yes, imposter syndrome's real.
Yes, yes. So how did you transition from being able to, what was the mindset transition to coming from a teacher? I don't know if you're from a small town or whatever, but you're not like from someone who can say, hey, I did $1 million in sales, $1 billion in sales. I'm Elon Musk, and I can tell you exactly how to do big dreams. So
Mhm.
how did you make that mindset to where you're able to teach and coach people the small steps leading up to the big
Well,
goal?
imposter syndrome was absolutely present in my story. So even though I had been a business owner for many years, it felt very different to be full time in my own business, to not have a steady paycheck to count on while I worked in my business. And so I got support. I invested in coaching so that I could have someone to bounce ideas off and develop my business acumen. So that was really important. I invested in coaching. But the second thing is, I've learned through my training as a breathwork facilitator and a somatic coach that mindset makes up about 80% of our transit, or excuse me, 20% of our transformation. The other 80% is stored in our body, meaning if we have a belief stored in our body that we're an imposter, that we can't do it, that it's too big, that it's too hard, that no one will like us, our body holds on to that belief and we cannot talk our minds out of it. But when we implement some body based types of experiences like breath work or somatic movement, we can connect the subconscious mind to the conscious mind to shift those beliefs. And so, in my own experience, I discovered breath work and realized it was the bridge between feeling like an imposter to feeling like, oh, I can do this. And so that's why I offer breath work in all of my clients, whether they're a one-to-one client or they're inside my group coaching program, they all have access to 2 breathwork sessions every week, because I feel like it's so important to acknowledge what's happening in the subconscious mind.
I want to take a pause here because I just had a freeze on the computer, and I don't know
Okay.
if it's my Wi-Fi or what's going on, but it just froze. Um, okay, so I just want to see. I'm gonna give it like 15 seconds to see if it does it
Okay.
again. Okay. All right. I think we're good. I think we're good. All right. So we'll start. I'll edit that part out. So with the mindset aspect, you spoke on. I know that. Well, I read that the nervous system. I think it was the nervous system is the CEO
That's right.
of. Okay, so I'll let you continue with that. I
Yeah,
may not be
so
saying it right.
I like to say your nervous system is the real CEO. So if you have anything in your experience, in your life, in your belief system, in what people have told you that is out of congruence with you being a successful entrepreneur, your body remembers that. And your body, if it doesn't feel safe to get new clients, to make more money, to raise your prices, you'll have a nervous system freeze. And that looks like procrastination. It looks like finding distractions on purpose. It looks like not completing things and you don't quite know why you're not completing things. It looks like putting things out there and not having anyone respond, because subconsciously we are all tracking energy whether or not we're energy healers. And so if for example, if I'm thinking to myself, no one is ever going to sign up for this thing, and then I offer that thing, you can feel and track that energy and you'll be repelled by it. And so I have to do my own inner work to make sure that my nervous system says, oh, okay, I am confident. I am expansive. I know that this offer is really good. I'm going to put it out there. And when I put my offers out in that way, then it's magnetic. And people don't quite know why they're drawn. You could make a ton of mistakes. Your copy could be all wrong. And if your energy is like, I've got you, it's very, very magnetic and compelling. And so when I see business owners that are working really hard, but they're not getting results, it's oftentimes due to something in their nervous system that does not feel safe. It doesn't feel safe either to be visible, which is probably the number one thing I see in entrepreneurs is a fear of visibility, whether it's actually being seen that's the problem, or if it's showing up on social media, or even in many cases, like I work with a lot of people that are teachers, doctors, lawyers. And in one case, I was working with a surgeon, and she's very well respected in her field. And she lived in a small town. And in the small town that she lived on, she was known only as a surgeon, but she really dreamed of being also a coach for women physicians. And she had an unconscious belief that if she shared about her coaching business in her small town, that she would lose her surgical practice, that people would cancel her, that people wouldn't want to come to her for surgery anymore. And when we realized that that was the case, we were able to clear it using somatic practices like breath work and movement and sound. And all of a sudden, she began to make forward momentum inside her business because we cleared that subconscious belief that if she went after her coaching business, she would lose her surgical practice. So that's one example.
That's amazing. That's amazing because, um, man, it kind of goes to show you that just your nature and your body. So it's telling, it's talking to you, it's letting you know what
Mhm.
is for real.
Mhm.
So the teachings, let's say the teachings of manifestation and um, dreaming, where does that fit into a person um, being coming into life, thoughts coming to life?
Mhm.
Um, where does that manifestation, like the abundance and all of the teachings, is that all mindset, or do you need the body to follow your manifestations as well?
It's a yes and. And so mindset's really important when we're talking about manifestation. If we have a mindset that we'll never manifest whatever it is that we want, we won't, because
Mhm.
the manifestation thoughts become things, right? And so if
Yes.
we're thinking things that are not what we actually want, we'll accidentally pull in those things. And so it's a yes and. And if our body says it's not safe for me to have this thing, like for example, if you have a belief that when you open a business and it becomes very successful and you start to have more money, that all of your friends will want to take advantage of you, and that's stored in your body, that very potentially will block the manifestation until we clear it in the body.
Right.
And so it's a yes and. But the thing that I see get in the way of most people manifesting is that they think all they have to do is think about it. There's an action required. We need to do the inspired action, the idea that comes to you as you're sitting in a meditation or you're dreaming up the idea. When you get the idea to, oh, I got to email that person or I need to call that guy, take those actions.
Take those actions. Yes. Yes. Faith without works is dead. Put plainly and simply.
Mhm.
So, how much of that, Brenda, how much of that, everything that you just explained, could be a part of a person's makeup as, for example, an introvert?
That's a great question. So I have seen no difference from introverts and extroverts as far as their being able to manifest. Even when we're talking about visibility, I have not seen a difference because of introversion or extroversion. The big difference is how safe does the nervous system feel? And I also want to say that everybody is individual. So there are some people that are introverts that are very public and they have huge social media followings and very big businesses because that's what they want. While other people are introverted and they want a local business only. They want people to come in and discover them through foot traffic, and they want to have a very loyal local community. And that's okay too. And so introversion and extroversion is not a predictor of whether or not you can be successful as a business owner. What is a predictor of whether or not you can be successful as a business owner is whether or not your body and your nervous system say it's safe for you to do the thing.
Right, right. I asked that question because my wife, my wife referred to me as a introverted extrovert, right? So I will go out when it's time to go out, but I'd rather not go out, right? I would very much rather not go out. But some of the times, like even with posting on social media,
Mhm.
like I was saying earlier, because Generation X comes from a different time, it's kind of hard. What I've noticed, I'm into marketing. So what I've noticed is a lot of the older people that I speak with, Generation X, is they were taught to keep their business private, not, tell what's going on outside of their house, anything about their life. But now that's just the way that it is now. So how do they separate that and get out of that? Would you consider that a blockage or something they need to move past?
Well, first of all, I think you just called me older. Um,
I'm right there with you. I'm right, I'm right there with you.
um,
So
and so, I think that if being out there as yourself, like my name is Brenda Winkle, if I'm out there as Brenda Winkle, that feels good to me. I'm okay with that. I I'm I'm a natural performer. That feels good. But if that did not feel good to me, then I wouldn't have a brand with my name. I would have a brand with a different name of my company. And so I think that that's a really important thing that you brought up, Rashad, because if you know that you don't want your brand to be a personal brand with your name, your face, then choosing the name of a company that gives you a little bit more anonymity might be a really good idea. And the truth is, those kinds of companies are easier to sell anyway. So, like, for example, Coca Cola, it's not a personal brand, it's the name of a company. And so I think that if visibility would be the reason that you wouldn't start, instead, think about how can you name the business? And then to your point about how do you show up, I feel like what you're really asking is how do you show up authentically? Because on social media, people don't love performing or performative reels, like they don't tend to do as well. They don't love perfection. I mean, they're pretty, but if you want really heartfelt emotional things, you want to feel something, you want to laugh, you want to feel seen, you want to feel inspired. And so when we're thinking about being really serious, which most of us Gen Xers were taught to do, we're taught to be professional and dress for the part and all these things, we can be too buttoned up. And so part of it is just realizing that we're in a different time and there's still a place for us to be professional. I think people still value professionalism, but they also want personality. And so finding a way to bridge your professional ethos with personality is a little bit of nuance. It takes some thought, it takes some work to figure out what's going to be the best fit for you.
that's a perfect answer.
Well,
That is a
thanks.
perfect answer. Yeah, I would like to share that because that's the truth and honest aspect of it. If you don't want to be the face of the brand, then find a way not to be the face of the brand.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
or the other option is to get with the times. You know, that's might seem kind of hard to say or hardcore, but those are the options in
Mhm.
2025.
Mhm.
Brenda, you have given a lot of knowledge. These people that and like I say, you're on a show that this is the demographic that I like to speak with because I think this is the second act of the play. You know,
Yes. Yes.
so there's so many people that we can connect with right now, Generation X, that can make your life totally different than the first 40 years. You
Mhm.
know, you could have a totally different experience and life for the next 40. So if people want to get in touch with you, what can they find you?
My website is brendawinkle.com. And if you're curious about just kind of dipping your toe into awareness around what is really lighting you up and what might be depleting you, I have a free energy audit there on the website. It's at brendawinkle.com/audit. And if you like to play on social media, I'm on all the socials and I'm probably most active on Instagram. And it's just my name, Brenda Winkle.
Brenda Winkle, Winkle.
That's right.
All right. And so, to anyone listening out there, I just want to say I do these interviews so you can make connection with these people. Like, these are very special people that have done um, what you're trying to do, or they're either someone that you are trying to connect with. So, I would suggest that you do so. And in the meantime, be sure to make more money, make more moves, and make more meaningful memories. And I will let you go for tonight. And I want to thank Miss Brenda Winkle for coming on the Millionaire by Morning show.
Thank you so much for having me. You have been so much fun and asked such great questions. Really appreciate you.
Awesome, awesome. I'm gonna ask you to hang on for a second. I'm gonna let the audience go, hang up with them, and ask you for 2 minutes of your time.